Hey folks, Rob here with take 2. Let's just say I forgot to actually hit record of my Feb updates, pickups, rambles. So to start with, Feb's been a good month video-wise. I mean, I think in doing some of the stuff I put out this month that it's been some of my best work, and it seems to have gotten a nice bit of response. So first up was the RGCD Compo Roundup. I'm really proud of what I did there. I mean, that's a good roundup of all the games in there. You know, when you got close to 20 games, there's a lot of work involved in capping, editing, scripting, and putting it all together and making something that people enjoyed. And I got a lot of good buzz out of that. So I'm going to be probably trying to do a bit more of that kind of review in future. I'm actually working on another one for something else that's a little smaller in focus, but a similar approach. There's just a script at the moment, and that's probably going to be happening later. After that, of course, was looking at Scramble. That's such a great homebrew port that just came out of nowhere and knocked off a lot of people's socks, mine included. Really good to see that out there, and it's really good that, you know, really well done game that's people checking out. Then I took a look at Speedball, another classic on the 8-bits. I mean, the 64 was the only home micro that got a port. I mean, the consoles did, and of course, it was really a 16-bit game. And then I popped my non-C64 gameplay cherry in recording Star Raiders. I'm actually really chuffed I got that working. I mean, I have quite a bit of respect for the Atari 8-bits. I need to get more games for my 800 XL. I'm a bit struggling on that front, which means I've only got a short amount of material that I can cover. So I'm trying to get more games for that. I've got a couple of carts on the way, which is good. And knowing that my setup worked for that means that I'm confident of doing it on a couple of the other machines as well. So I'm going to be trying to do one or so a month in the near future as well, at least as I build up libraries of some of those other machines. So, I should cover, there's a chance there might be some horrible background noises, some work going on outside. I had a pretty good run for the first time I recorded this, where I rambled and forgot to record, so I do apologise. But next is on to pickups. And the first batch here actually has a little bit of an interesting story to it. So on one of the C64 forums I visit, there was a post late last year. No, at the start of the year. My mistake. It's actually, I'm looking at the thread in the background now, and it's actually January 2015. But basically, over in Germany, someone found from found a lot of 1,000 like CD4 games. That's not 1,000 different games, but 1,000 made up of various other types. It was like, yeah, shipping to a store or something. And eventually they were basically shipped down to a particular German reseller who sells things like Everdrives and whatnot. And he put them up on sale. And, you know, these are all like new, some sealed, some not. You know, new old stock games that went for a pretty good price. And when the list went up, I thought, there were some photos that showed some games. Some already had a couple of compilations, the utter mess that is Cisco Heat. So I wasn't like, I was sort of like, I'll keep a watch and see what comes up, but I'm not sure I'm going to get anything. And then there was a post on the forum one morning, and I had gotten up and I'd had breakfast, and it was a day when I was working from home on freelance stuff, and there was a message on that thread that said, it's up. So I looked in and I started browsing, and I was completely blown away because one of the games listed is, I guess, what you call a holy grail for me, and that is First Samurai. I never expected I'd find a copy of this game. Being a fairly late C64 release, being that the original publisher went under, it was supposed to be published by ImageWorks right about the time they collapsed, and it was in limbo for a while before eventually falling in the hands of Ubisoft, who would publish it. And the nature of it is fairly cheap publishing in that there's just the tape and a low quality instruction sheet. It's not as nice as you'd expect in early years. I don't know how that compares to the instructions for the Amiga ST versions. But yeah, I'm pretty thrilled that I found this, and it was like, you know, sealed, which of course I opened to actually test it. It's an excellent, you know, platform adventure. You know, the guys who designed it designed the last Ninja games, so sort of hence the name is a bit of a riff on that. But I never thought I'd see this. You know, I saw it in magazines. I started reading those back in the day, and I played the cracked version stuff. But having a proper copy is amazing. So, as I said, I never thought I'd ever see this because it's never come up on eBay or other retro sites I've looked at. So the fact that it came up and I was able to get a copy, blown away, and at a reasonable price. I think it was like about 20 euro. So it's like, you know, close to $30 Australian. It's about what you would have paid had it made it to Australian shelves back in the day. So I'm pretty happy about that. And obviously, when you do an order like that, you order a couple others, and there are a lot more I wanted to order, but I ended up just limiting myself to 3. So the second one is Space Gun, which is another fairly late Ocean release. I actually had the demo of this, so I knew I wanted to get my hand on it. But I always thought it was just a cartridge release, cartridge release for the C64GS, and it's sort of one of the last ones out there. And again, I've never seen that come up, the cartridge version come up online. So I never thought I'd ever get my hands on it. But, so as a result, it does a lot of loading, and the multi-load is pretty bad, which is no surprise. But it's sort of the spacey follow-up to like Operation Wolf and Operation Thunderbolt. It does a mix of the first and third, the side-to-side and going into the screen movement. The sprites are a bit blocky, but it actually plays really well. It's nice and smooth. It plays really well. It doesn't have a 2-player mode, but hey, it's a pretty good game. I was really chuffed to find that. I'd seen the tape release a few other places, but even just getting a new one, yeah, pretty darn cool. And the third one I got is Spitfire, which is a side-to-side air combat game. You take off your Spitfire, go and blast enemy planes and enemy flying bombs. I've actually got a review of this queued up, so it's going to be pretty soon. Yeah, as it says, previously unreleased, which is actually cool. A cool thing. It's a rather good little game. I actually enjoyed playing this one. Now on to the next batch. So, sorry for the chair squeaking. So, the next batch, where I bought it from an Australian seller. Basically, it's been a little more expensive to import titles this month, as dollar fluctuations always happen, and we always get the shaft on postage. So I've been looking a bit more locally for titles, and these came up in an auction quite a while ago. There were some things that delayed shipping, unfortunately. But the first one is 4x4 Off-Road Racing by Epix. This is the release by US Gold, and it's basically a racing game where you're driving 4x4 trucks on like desert, ice, mud rallies, and so it's like a full-length rally. And what you have to, the bit where this game gets interesting is before you actually race, you have a bunch of money that you buy a truck. You have to buy your supplies, so things like fuel, tires, parts. And a lot of it is that you need to actually survive the rally, because you will race and you'll have a breakdown. You might have crashed or something, and you've got to go and repair, and that slows you down. It costs time. So you have to know how to survive all that. Make sure you equip yourself properly before you go and start the rally. It's actually a really fun game. I enjoyed this a lot as a kid, and I found the tape version a while back, but I had it as a copy on disc, and to have a disc release of it's pretty darn cool. I'm looking forward to getting my hands back into that and hopefully doing a gameplay review of it. It's a really good game. And the other one I got was another really rare one, and that is Crazy Cars 3. This is actually the disc version, and that's an important thing to note because again, it was released on both disc and tape, but the tape version is seriously watered down. Because of, if you've ever seen this on the 16-bits, and actually if you've been a long-term viewer of the channel, I've actually did a video of this fairly early on, but it was emulated. And one of the big things about it, is that it uses a lot of interlaced graphics. So if you're playing them on an emulator where the screen isn't actually synced to a PAL refresh rate, so multiple of 50 Hz, the screen is just wobbling pretty heavily. You need to be able to have something that blends it. It would have looked awesome on a CRT back in the day. So I really want to see about re-recording it off real hardware, doing just a bit of a quick demo, re-recording off real hardware, putting some motion blur on to sort of allow for that and see how it looks. But I'm actually really impressed with the conversion. They got it on the 64. It plays pretty well. It's not one of the best racing games. It is a massive improvement over the first two Crazy Cars games. Again, the videos are they're linked in my season 1 playlist on the channel, and you can find them and watch how bad they are. But I'm really chuffed to have this, 'cause I never thought I'd ever see this as well. Next up, we've got an Amiga game. And that is the Australian release of Populous through good old ECP. So back in the day, I never really played Populous. When I got a PC, I never got the PC version. And when, you know, I had relatives with Amiga, cousins with Amigas, when we go over this, we never play. You never sit down and put a strategy game on. You put a beat 'em up, you put a racing game, you put an arcade game on. So never really saw it. And when I got a PC, never really played by that. You know, moved on to real-time strategy games and other types of games. But I recently got hooked on a game called Reprisal Universe, which is basically a modern take on the formula, and I kind of got hooked on it. It's a game I've been playing a fair bit on Steam. Been really good fun, and when it came down to it, I saw this come up for pretty much the only bid I made. So the start price was pretty good considering it wasn't just Populous, but I also got the expansion disc, which is pretty cool. You know, a whole bunch of new themed maps, and along with that, graphical strategy guide. So I pretty much got like the whole thing, and it was like ended up being like $20, which is pretty good. I can't complain about that at all. I'm looking forward to putting this on and having a good play to see how it compares on the original, you know, little Amiga that could versus, you know, this modern sort of remake that's on a more conventional system. So I'm pretty chuffed to have that. I really need to get my Amiga set up again, but I don't have the downside of not having a permanent game room. And last but not least, I went back to have a little story to him. So, when I got my +4 a few months ago, my good friend Ant, who is responsible for an amazing C64 shmup with the shmup construction kit, which I'll have a link down below, and you should check it out and throw him a few bucks as sort of a thank you from my part for this. But he said, you know, when I got it, he said to me that if he could dig up his stash of C16 tapes, he'd be willing to, you know, send some my way. And I thought, that's pretty cool, thanks, man. So he pinged me, he sent me a photo of a little tape case with a whole bunch of them, and just like, get in touch with what you want, we'll work out everything. So I sent him a bunch of dollars after, and, you know, along with my address and stuff, and it's like, you know, let me know how much you want, I'll pay you a few bucks, you know, for postage and whatever. And he never got back to me, because it turns out he just sent them and it's like, don't worry about postage, which I'm really freaking grateful for, because, you know, I was expecting to pay a few bucks, and I've got some stuff I need to send his way in return, which I've been very tardy on. There, and it's really appreciated, man. But I've already said that to him privately anyway. So, a bunch of tapes for the C16 and +4. So first off is Terra Cognita, which is a little vertically scrolling shmup where you're a little fighter and you're trying to sort of blast through this thing. Now, I played the C64 one a bit. I don't have it, but I played it. And this version is a lot nicer, a lot more colourful. You know, the +4 TED chip for sound makes certain kind of effects a little meatier than they are on the SID. But of course, music is another story. But it's an interesting game. It's infuriating, but it's interesting. Not a lot better than I might have thought. Next one is Bubble Trouble. And I only played it briefly, but what it reminds me of is like a side-on view version of the arcade game Bubbles, which I never heard of until I saw it in a midway, you know, in the as one of the games in the first Williams arcade classics pack, where you're a bubble, you've got to clean a thing. Looking at the screens and from what I tried to when I sat down and played it briefly to test, that's what it reminds me of. Interesting one again. And then there's Burks, and Burks is like, it's sort of a single screen shooter. I don't quite understand it yet. I need to sit down and play that a bit more. I mean, I just quick load and test, and it's like, I think that's what it is. I need to sit down and play that some more. It looks interesting though. Then there's Danger Zone, which is a pretty much run-of-the-mill horizontal shooter. It looks okay. Bit interesting. I need to sit down and play that more and want to see if it actually gets playable rather than just like looking fairly simplistic. But the main reason the main games I picked from the list he sent were the C16 version of Pod, which I loved on the C64. I've actually done a video of that version, and I'll probably see about doing a quick video for this version. But it's a single screen shooter in the vein of Grid Runner or Centipede. You fight against the clock and you blast little drones and stuff. What's interesting though is the C64 version has sort of trippy raster bar effects to act as the background, and would have thought that the C16 having a richer color palette, they would have done the same thing. But they actually chopped it out. And while I love them for a visual effect, it does get a bit distracting. And so this version is actually a little nicer as a result. I remember a person commenting on my C64 play video of the C64 version, and they made that point that it's actually a pretty nice conversion for the C16 and Plus 4 as a result. And lastly, the one I really wanted was Kickstart. Now, I've got both the Kickstart games on the C64, but this C16 version is completely different. Rather than being like race over an obstacle course in a primitive 8-bit version of Trials, this is a lot more like a little arcade racer. You're against the clock, and you need to basically get through like little courses. They're a lot shorter. The obstacles are a little less packed, and it's a lot more about just like timing jumps rather than speed and like surviving all this thing. Really fun little game. I got reminded of it at a meet, and I just had a whole bunch of games on my SD card that's hooked up to my Plus 4, and it's like, oh, this is really fun. Me and a couple of friends had a lot of play on an afternoon with it. And I'm hoping to get more games for that, more games for the Atari and some of the other machines, because I'd love to do more of those in due course. So I'm pretty happy with that. Some good hauls there. And, game-wise, I've been playing Reprisal Universe, as I mentioned. Been trying to still get my way through the next Penelope. I've got up to some really tough stages there. And I've been playing a bit of Besiege, which is a physics puzzler where you build, like, medieval siege weaponry that blast through little buildings and that. Pretty good game. I might actually include Steam links down below. So if you play stuff on a PC or whatever, you can go check them out. And I mean, that's pretty much it. So next month, I'm gonna try and do one video a month from another machine. The Plus 4, the Atari, whatever. Try and do what I can there. And as well, I'm back on 64 stuff for the next few weeks. I've got videos already recorded and just waiting to release. Easy to get those out of the way, especially because I'm trying to work on a larger edit project. Again, I want to try and do like once a month. Try and do a game on another platform, and maybe every 2 months, maybe once a month, if I can get my process down better, just try and do a larger review of something, whether it's a game that might be too long to do a normal play of, or a game that's got a bit more interesting background behind it, or things like that. For example, doing things like the Morpheus how to play, because that game is so complicated. Maybe doing some stuff like that on a simulator. Maybe a game that's got a bit of an interesting background to it. Things like that. So I'm going to be trying to do more of those, and trying to do like once every 2 months or every month. The good news is, if you got a little drained by the lengthy videos this month, next month's batch are a lot shorter in length. The ones I've already recorded are much shorter. So hopefully they won't be as draining to watch. I'm pretty chuffed that I was able to pick the right games I got some shorter plays out of. So I'm looking forward to doing those. And that's pretty much a wrap. I think after accidentally messing up the first take, I rambled a bit more on that one. So this let me be a bit more succinct. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking or commenting. If you're subscribed, thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for keeping engaged as I do this stuff out there. It's been something I always enjoy doing. If you haven't, please do consider it. I do this stuff, once a week. There's a gameplay, there's the occasional video response, and some other stuff. Hopefully, find it interesting and learn something, because even the more popular 8-bit platforms do have their nice little hidden secrets. And, I like watching stuff about other machines so I can learn from them. And even, everyone has different experiences. Even on a machine with as varied a library as the 64, we're all going to have people who grew up on them are going to see different subsets. So, yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.